Secure your Elixir apps with Paraxial IO. From code analysis and bot defense to dependency checks, they've got you covered. Elixir first design with GitHub integration. Elevate your security at Paraxial.io.
Hey, I'm Kimberly with Elixir Mentor. Jacob recently added recruitment services to help companies hire pre-vetted Elixir devs. I help with company outreach, so if you're hiring, I may be reaching out, or you can connect with us anytime at elixirmentor.com.
Testing. What's up? I'm Jacob Blitzo, your Elixir Mentor, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Elixir Mentor podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to Elixir, from interviews with enthusiasts, pioneers in the community, to innovative projects and libraries shaping Elixir's future. Today, I'm joined by Josh Price, founder and CTO of Alembic. You've probably heard of him just being involved with Ash, and we're going to talk a little bit about a new project he's been working on called Clarity, and probably talk about just building a consultancy in general, and who knows, maybe what AI means for developers. I think we have a whole assortment of conversations. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries, Jacob. Great to be here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun conversation. And for everyone joining us, I know this isn't our normal time, so thanks for tuning in. It's difficult to connect with people from across the world, right? I think you're the furthest you can be as far as time zones go.
The New Zealanders will be mad that you said that, Jacob.
Yeah, but you don't care about them, do you?
We care greatly, but we like making fun of each other.
Something about sheep and stuff, right?
I don't know if you can go there, man.
I have one of my cousins is married to a Kiwi, so I think I'm allowed to make fun of him a little bit.
So you've heard the jokes.
Yeah.
I don't know if we do those anymore.
You don't do them anymore?
I don't think so, but they got a lot of mileage.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so to kick things off, you want to kind of, for those of us that might not know you, kind of explain who you are and your background a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Josh, if you hadn't figured that out already. I've been doing Elixir for probably over 10 years, which is, a fairly long time.
Yeah,
I've had
OG status.
Probably 30 years of programming plus. No, probably 40 if you count, where I started, poking Commodore 64s and VIC-20s and very early computers, Apple IIes and Cs.
Nice.
But yeah, I probably had 3 decades of my career. Like the first one was Java, second one was Ruby, and then the third one was definitely focused on Elixir. And yeah, I don't see that changing. And it's funny that we've arrived at, and we can talk about this later, the Twitter sphere, if we call it that, I'm not calling it the new thing, is a buzz with the fact that, people realizing that Elixir and Erlang and the Beam are perfect, infrastructure for running modern agentic systems.
I'm surprised it took so long, to be honest.
Right. And then not long after I discovered Elixir, I was like, I need to start a company doing this. And me and a buddy, James Sadler, who is off doing some very, very deep tech these days, doing like, what's it called? He works for a company called CipherStash, where it's super deep encryption, where you can do lots of stuff while still keeping the data encrypted. Encryption and use is sort of the thing.
Okay, nice.
And I hear they're probably making some waves in the space. It's pretty cool. But yeah, we've been doing that for like 9 years now. I think it was our birthday in Feb, and we are very bad at celebrating these things. Maybe wait for the 10th one. Plan that better.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool.
It's a short history of what I've been doing.
So you started your consultancy after finding Elixir.
Right.
Okay.
So I was working at a gaming and betting company for my sins. Like the domain was not really my jam, but yeah, it was super interesting work. And what it required was, because it was very fast moving market data, And the closer you got to an event, the faster and the more traffic and the more that the data would move. And so we solved that pretty inelegantly with basically caching and refreshing every 10 seconds. It did the trick. It's a blunt
Isn't that
force
how you do
object,
things?
but I don't know. I think we can talk about this later as well. It's like sometimes the dumb solution is really brutally effective, and that worked great, but you had sort of an average time of stale data of 5 seconds, which when you have really, really fast moving data may not cut it. If anyone's done any trading of any sort, then you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah, I saw a couple of things in that project. Not only was Node really expensive, and AWS can charge you an arm and a leg, and you needed a lot of Node servers to do that kind of strategy. And I was like, and we also had like a REST API that was, I guess, artisanally handcrafted. And so, we saw drift across all kinds of different parts of the system that people were building out. Like everywhere you looked, every bit was different to every other bit, just in subtle, nuanced ways. And you just didn't have that consistency. And so, with an artisanally handcrafted REST API, which was honestly the winning strategy here, because we were wrapping old, legacy technology that they'd spent a lot of money and a lot of time failing to migrate to something more modern. And so we kind of threw the API rug over it, and we were able to replace an existing Flash website that a Big Four consultancy had put in there after Steve Jobs had said, "Hey, don't no Flash on my Apple devices." And so they had a Flash website and they had no mobile app, and that was not acceptable at the time. So basically, the API surface area sort of saved us from the monsters underneath, and we built all of this modern stuff that was pretty great. But I thought it could be better, and Elixir and GraphQL were sort of the two dimensions on which I thought it could be better. First of all, like REST APIs, it's HTTP1, it's request response. So there was no way to push fast changing market data to the front end and to the user's devices. And so you have to request. And so that's why the caching strategy every 10 seconds worked. So brutally well, brutally effective.
Sometimes, you just have to make your hacky solution, and no one really needs to know how you did it.
Well, exactly. But what I was dreaming of was like, well, why aren't we pushing the data only when it's changed? And so that led me down a path of like, well, what do we need here? Like WebSockets would be great, and open connections. So you don't have, like, how do you do push? And APIs, certainly REST APIs didn't support it. So I was looking at GraphQL, which at the time was pretty new and also had a subscription idea. And some of the spec was also looking at defer and stream and sort of all that kind of stuff.
How do you still like GraphQL today? I know
we use it a lot.
Yeah,
but
I'm a big fan of it personally, but a lot of people have very harsh opinions of it. But I think it's like
I was
a
super bullish.
Developer. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was super bullish about it, and I think possibly over bullish. I think it has some problems, and I think it's really pick the tool for the job. And it's kind of, if I need an API, it's the first tool I would reach for, but it's not the only tool in the tool belt. So knowing when to use it is important.
Yeah,
but I think it doesn't get enough airtime and credit for the subscription stuff, which is allowing push through the API, which changes the game in terms of APIs.
Yeah, to be able to subscribe to events and things is pretty awesome. Or just changes whatever you're subscribing to, right? And I also like just the flexibility. I feel like as long as you have some restrictions around your like mutations and queries, it's nice the flexibility you can still give the front end for requesting data without just getting a bloated response,
Yeah, and look, there's a ton of ways that GraphQL is just super elegant. And the way I liked to think about it, and I still like to think about it, is it's although Ash probably changes that, GraphQL by itself is probably a super flexible API toolkit, and you can do REST with a GraphQL graph, because all you're doing is sort of projecting a tree and starting at a root node and projecting a static tree over that. And think of just mounting a GraphQL query at an endpoint, like a URL, and you've got REST, and you can just define what all the queries for the things you can get. So you can sort of get REST through GraphQL, which is very elegant. And you can have GraphQL serve GraphQL serve GraphQL. It doesn't matter where it is. It was a standardized way of describing the world. So that was one dimension of what I saw at this company. And then the other dimension was like, okay, well, if you've got open sockets, there's no way that Node would reasonably and sort of economically efficiently serve that many open connections. Look, it probably could, but it would cost you a lot. And I do recall the AWS bills being quite large. It's no surprise or irony that my manager and buddy now runs AWS in Australia.
Oh, that's
on the other
awesome.
side of the coin. And so that gives you a sense of like, yeah, okay, you can turn the taps on and certainly charge a lot of people a lot of money if you don't choose the right technical solution.
That is very true.
Yeah, like that was where I landed on Elixir, and I was like, oh my God, like Elixir and Erlang, this is perfect for this. Like open connections, pushing fast-moving data up to client devices. And that was the sort of two dimensions on which we founded Alembic.
Nice.
So that was pretty much it. And GraphQL, look, we use it a ton. Like we don't sort of think it's the most important thing like we used to. Look, use it where you need it.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool.
We usually still use it for mobile apps. So
okay.
And then Ash came along a bit later, basically allowing us to spin up whatever API we want.
I'm curious, what brought Ash on your radar, and like what made you go so bullish with it and like bring Zack Daniel on board and all that?
So this is a good question. I'd actually forgotten the origin story until I just started telling the previous story. So it came through GraphQL. And so I thought GraphQL was super simple. Like it's only got a couple of primitives, and in terms of primitive types, that is its kind of problem these days. We can talk about that later if you want. So it had a couple of primitive types and then a way to model like a graph of your domain. And so I started thinking, could we, using GraphQL SDL, the schema definition language, actually model domains in this? And you basically could. What it lacked was a few things like union types, and I would model domains and go, yeah, like API first modeling. It wasn't terrible, except there wasn't anywhere to put the business logic or describe what happened when you mutated a thing. And so, fun fact, Elixir GraphQL was my first Hello World Elixir project.
Oh, nice.
And so I spent like months writing the parser for that, which actually got borrowed and used into Absinthe. And I wrote it in Leaks and Yek, which is, if you don't know what those are Erlang's Lex and Yek parser and Lexa. And so, yeah, like I'd spent a ton of work in that, and then Absinthe used that to sort of leapfrog into a much more elegant solution that we see today. And yeah, so I was trying to build GraphQL and Elixir for exactly that reason. And I was like, we can model stuff in this, but there was nowhere in GraphQL to actually put the domain logic and the things that sort of aren't just the nouns and relationships and the types. So I was like, this is nearly there, but it's not quite. And I did meet, actually my first Elixir conference was in Berlin in 2016. And me and James Sadler went over there and we met up with, so this was ElixirConf EU. And I think it was one of the first ones. But we also met up with a whole bunch of GraphQL folk. So Bruce Williams was there. who else was there? The guy that wrote Sangria, I forget his name, who's no longer with us, which is a shame. He was amazing. He built the Scala GraphQL implementation. Andy Marek built the Java one. And then Johannes Schickling, who started GraphQL and then ended up doing Prisma, were also there. So we met up in a pub in Berlin, had some beers, and chatted GraphQL. So
that's awesome.
You know,
Berlin's a fun city. I want to go back. I need an excuse. I was there for like exactly 8 hours once on like a long layover, and I just
8 hours is not enough time in Berlin.
No, I know. But I took advantage of being there, and I just like paid a taxi cab driver. I was like, take me to all like the German food, like all the good restaurants that I should go to. And we just like drove around for 8 hours, and I just ate a ton of food and drank beer.
Did you have currywurst?
I don't think so. No.
Street food classic.
Nice.
I've got to say, I'm sorry to all the Germans, but I don't rate it as a street food. Like, it's good, but it's not amazing.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I've traveled a lot, and I've had
it's
better.
Just heavy. It's just all meat, you know.
But it's, you know, it's like processed meat, so it's like
that's true.
It's a very particular taste, and I definitely had a long conversation last time I was in Berlin, and yeah, I offended someone. So apologies to all the German curry.
Offend away. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So when you met Zack Daniel, was he just already working on Ash, or was it like an idea that you kind of both came up with?
Well, remember how I was like trying to, you know, model domains in GraphQL, and, you know, people thought I was crazy, and it didn't quite work because we were missing whole chunks and the type system wasn't quite there. And I'm like, but this is close. What is it? And at the same time, I saw like an early incarnation of Ash, and it sort of, I don't remember what it said. I think we looked at the Wayback Machine. If you look at the early Ash websites, you can find it. We did that at the Ash Summit. And it's kind of funny. Like, it was on my to-do list, but I didn't realize really what it did. And so I looked at it and thought, oh, that's a way of sort of auto-spinning up some GraphQL APIs using Elixir.
Okay.
And I sort of had it on my to-do list for like a couple of years. I'm like, yeah, I should check that out one day. I didn't get around to it. Then we had a client project where it was like, oh, we need to build, you know, basically Elixir. We needed to build out a mobile like API because they wanted to have, you know, mobile devices. And this was our sort of, you know, first really big Ash project. And I was like, Ash would be perfect for this. So I hit up Zack and I tried it out, and I'm like, oh, this is quite good. And then I realized once I dove into Ash that it actually solved a lot of the problems that I was trying to solve. And so I sort of saw the power immediately, because it just filled in the blanks for what I was trying to do, modeling domains in GraphQL. And it modeled it, you know, in elegant DSLs at the Elixir layer. And then from that, you could derive GraphQL or REST or whatever. And then I realized it was more than just an API generator. And I think a lot of people fell into it's just an API generator trap for a long time. And, you know, I was like, oh, we could use this for everything. And, you know, the more I dug, the more things I could see. And, you know, the client was you know, deeply technical and appreciated what that brought. And he basically asked a whole bunch of enterprise architects, like, that he knew, because we were like, we should try Ash on this. We were also trying to try LiveView. So, you know, he was already sort of bought into LiveView, but we didn't know about the component system. But we looked at Ash as well, trying to go, well, if we model everything in this, we can generate so much of the, you know, the enterprisey stuff that we know we're going to need for this, you know, eventually very enterprisey app. And so he asked a bunch of his buddies that were enterprise architects and had worked on really, really big enterprise systems. And they all basically, you know, came back with the idea that, well, you're eventually going to have to hand roll and hand build something like Ash eventually yourself. And so I think in the forward of the Ash book, I make a joke about I can't remember what law I called it, but it's a riff on Greenspun's law that any sufficiently old and advanced, enterprise system contains, a buggy, slow, ill-fitting version of Ash.
That's funny.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's true. Like, the bigger an app gets, the more Ash matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where people struggle to realize its power, because if you try it out on a toy app, it doesn't give you anything. And it's not until you have a really big domain and lots of things to generate from that.
I feel like it gives you a lot with a toy app because it gets you up and running really quickly.
I'm not saying it doesn't give you anything with a toy app.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, the value isn't there because people go, oh, like, this is not doing that much more than what I could do.
Yeah, fair.
And especially with LLMs, it's like, the calculus at a toy app level.
I actually struggled. I liked the idea of Ash. I liked Zack. I had Zack on my podcast before I started diving into Ash as well. And I struggled. I gave up. Like, I ripped it out of a couple projects where I tried to bring it in. And I was like, I can move faster just, using Elixir and Phoenix. I'm just going to stick with what I'm comfortable with. And then when the book came out, I was like, all right, I'm going to force myself. I'm going to actually learn this thing. And now all my personal projects, like if I'm in control of them, I'm using Ash on all of them now because you just like get up and running so quickly.
Exactly. And it's not just up and running, and like Igniter changes the game on that.
Well, and just like so much less template code that you're writing as well. Like, you just create your resource, your policies, and like you don't have to think about your migrations or like anything. Like, so much comes out of the box.
I think having spent like a decade of writing migrations in Ruby,
dude,
and
migrations
just
suck.
Like, honestly, it was the worst part of my day. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what are we doing here? And not having that, like, people, undervalue like just how great not having to think about migrations is. I mean, you still have to read and review them, but unless they're destructive, you don't have to look at them.
Right.
Just a projection of your domain.
I have a horrible habit of always reading all of that. Maybe it's not a horrible habit. It's probably a safe habit.
It's a good habit.
I read
For all your kids out there, files. Read your migrations. Don't be like Uncle Josh.
Yeah. And, but so far I haven't done anything, complicated, like basic web apps, they're just CRUD operations essentially, right? But I have not had to adjust anything. Like, my indexes get created properly. I have not had to edit anything, and that's nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that long enough that I think, unless there's a problem later, which is very rare, like unless you have very specific needs. If you're just doing, normal stuff, Ash has your back on that. Well, it's actually technically Ash Postgres. And that's the other complexity about Ash, is like Ash core is really, like the starting point. And then Ash Postgres means you can derive your data layer. And there's all kinds of data layers popping up. And I think, it may be controversial, but I think we're seeing that 2026 may be the end of like the road for relational data, because it just doesn't work really in an agentic world where you need, sparse graph relationships, you need vector, you need time series and temporal understanding as well, like what facts of the world were replaced by new facts.
Yeah.
And the multi-model DB is something we're looking into at the moment.
Sounds complicated, and now another thing I have to learn.
Well, look, the relational DB has done well. I think it was sort of invented in the 60s and 70s, I believe. And the relational model has had a good run, but it just taps out at the things that you need for agentic memory.
Yeah.
And being able to query, context about the world extremely quickly and thoroughly. Mm-hmm. And so anyone who's, been doing stuff with agents, it's like intelligence without context really isn't that useful.
Right. Well, that's been the biggest problem, right?
Right. And the more context you can give it, the better, which is, OpenClaw may be, effectively a weaponized virus in disguise, but, it's very tempting because when you give it, when you give it all the context and all the tools, it can be extremely helpful. And
I have not played around with it. I have like kept my eye on it, but I haven't used it. Maybe I need to.
Look, it's definitely worth testing it out in a very,
sandbox.
Don't give it any tools that,
that
you might regret, and definitely do it in the sandbox. The more sandboxes, the better.
Yeah. Sandbox inside of sandboxes.
But yeah, I haven't played with it either. But what I've done is largely just put a whole bunch of context in files on disk, which is largely a Claude native knowledge graph.
Yeah.
And so I've been running sort of my own very MacGyvered OpenClaw style thing, just with Claude Code with files on disk, and it works great.
That's awesome.
It definitely falls down though, because where it puts stuff, it's using like file system search primitives like grep and find and that kind of thing. And so that starts tapping out pretty quickly. And I think it's interesting because I've also been, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but just opening up Claude inside your .claude directory with all of the sessions, because it saves everything.
I have not tried that. That's a good idea though. Yeah.
But only recently, and I don't know what tipped it off. And I think Codex did this by default, because everything, all of the sessions are stored as JSON-L, which is like JSON strings as lines on in a text file. And grep starts falling down in that sort of format. Mm-hmm. And so, if you do that, you can not only introspect, what your Claude sessions look like. And it took me a while to figure this out, and this is probably a pro tip for everyone. Claude does keep things for 30 days, but it has a 30-day cleanup window. So if you want to save sessions older than 30 days, there is a setting that you can use to go and, I think it's like cleanup frequency or whatever, and you can just say how many days does it take and set it to a really high number. So you keep all your sessions. And sort of one easy way into this is there is now a command on the latest Claude. I don't know when they introduced it. I just found it the other day, /insights. And so maybe run it on yours if you've got a Claude open. If you type /insights, it will basically go and introspect all of your sessions.
Dude,
and give you some
insights. I'm making a note right now so I don't forget.
I mean, it says some interesting stuff. It's really, really kind of personal and it's kind of helpful, because it actually goes and analyzes like where did things go wrong, and it gives you prompts that you can put into your Claude MD, like so you can just copy paste them. So it gives you a big HTML report, and it gives you like ways to fix up where it went wrong. That's awesome. A friend of mine had posted on LinkedIn this morning that he was like literally just searching his Claude sessions for swear words. And that's obviously a place where you got frustrated and the bot's just doing the wrong thing. And it's like, we'll find all those times and figure out what went wrong and don't do that again.
Because I have been like, are you an effing idiot? After you
so I was thinking
go in depth explaining what you want and it still does the wrong thing. And you're like, what are you doing?
Right. And I've been doing, all kinds of tasks in just my folder of Claude. Like state files, and Claude sort of constructed it. And
have you played around with beads at all for context stuff?
Well, beads is just like a to-do list. I did try it out probably last year, but
it kind of fell on the floor. It kind of fell on the floor. I think they started trying to get too fancy with it. And actually a buddy of mine rewrote beads, and it's called beadwork, and he's using like Git branches and stuff now for keeping track of tasks and like epics. It works really well. So
very cool.
I think for context and like just like I always make like markdown plans and things, but it's kind of nice to keep like the plan split into issues and like a nice to-do list, right? But
yeah, for sure. The challenge is when you may change direction and like things get invalidated. So, but certainly there's lots of ways to do that, and I think people are exploring different tools and
there's new cool ways to do everything. I feel like daily. I can't keep up.
Well, here's what I've realized, and this may be sort of explain what's happening with the explosion of software, is it's actually easier to write your own now than understand someone else's thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you played with Gasstown, which was Steve Yegi's sort of advancement beyond beads. And I think he uses beads in Gasstown. But honestly, that was just, someone's fever dream. And I'm like, I tried it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the mayor of Gasstown. And then I ended up falling back into like just raw Claude planning. Like I was just in Claude plan mode, and raw plan mode is what a lot of people are discovering is actually pretty good. It keeps getting better. And so you don't actually need to live inside someone else's fever dream. You can create your own.
Yeah.
And that's honestly better than, writing your own tools, hyper-personalizing them for yourselves. And software engineers are the most capable of doing that.
It's what's wild too for me is like I've been just using the app, the Claude app a lot, and like co-work. I've been just writing my own like Claude MDs for directories, and like I have like a candidate evaluation skill now, and it will go through candidate projects and give me like PDF write-ups, so I know if I want to go physically look at their code or just trash it. Like it will tell me if it's like good or not, and then I'm like, okay, now I'll manually review this code. It saves me so much time. It's amazing.
And look, that's it. Like we're producing output at such a volume that actually human cognitive limits are reached very quickly, and you can't read and reason about the world at that speed. And so you actually have to have the bots like do it for you.
Like as we see, like you just made a tweet about, AGI being like right around the corner, right? And like what do you see it doing to like our worlds? Like you and I both get paid to write code. Like you're a consultancy, so you have employees and all of this, and like are you worried, or do you think it's just going to kind of like shift how we do it, and we're still going to be the technical architects that have to build things?
Well, I like to think of it this way, and maybe zooming out to like not just software developers, but humanity is about to get a massive uplift. Now, we may be speed running the Industrial Revolution in sort of a tenth of the time, like a year instead of 10.
Which is wild.
Or something of that nature.
Like,
so
can we keep up with our own advancements? Like that's kind of like what kind of scares me. I don't know
about you, but I'm reaching my own personal cognitive and physical limits.
I've hit that a while ago.
and so and so that is a signal to say we are the bottleneck here. Like we're outgunned, for sure. We've got intelligence, and it's non-deterministic, and so it's not always right. But have you met people? Have you met
we're never right.
the internet? Nobody's right. And I think, what prepared me most for a lot of things in this life was I had a brief period of playing poker online back in like probably, what year was it? 2003, when poker got really popular. And I was in between sort of jobs, and I was like kind of disillusioned with IT. And I was at the end of my 20s going, is this really what I signed up for, building software? And I didn't get it. Like I didn't get why we were building this garbage stuff, and it was overly complicated. And I thought it was me. Then I realized, oh, actually it's everyone else. Like, why are you making this more complicated than it needs to be? And simplicity is hard. Like, it sounds easy, but it actually takes a lot more effort.
I always found like when I write my own code, it's easier to follow, right? And I also feel like my solutions are always more simple than other people's, but I don't know if that's because I've written
so says you.
Right. Like I have to talk to the guy that is working on my code years later when I'm no longer part of that company, and see how they really feel.
Well, exactly. And I think, coding is a communication exercise, and it's a thinking exercise. And so really a lot of the things that we're doing is communicating and thinking. And if you think it's about typing, you probably need to check.
Well, now it's
really
reading
what
and
programming
thinking, right?
and software development is all about. You're solving problems, you're doing like hard thinking about how to solve those problems and communicating the solutions.
Well, even before we had LLMs writing a lot of our code for us, you still spent 90% of your time thinking through solutions and and then you write the code, but it's 10% is probably on the high side of where you spend your time writing code.
Right. And look, I think just the poker story was all about just playing probabilistic games. I've always loved backgammon and I like poker. I've never been that great at chess. I mean, chess has some probabilistic stuff to it, but if you know your opponent and you know what level they are and you're reasonably good, chess is pretty deterministic. There's only a certain set of moves that your opponent's likely to make. And they might come up with something good that you didn't think about, but you largely know within sort of
I feel like
3 or 4 moves what they're going to do.
The best chess players are just really good at memorizing tactics, right? Like there's only so many movements you can make on a board. And so it's like memorizing what's been done.
And that's why like the speed chess is interesting, because you can't deeply think about it. You're really just falling back to just pure speed pattern matching. But also, have you seen chess? I think it's called 960. And what they do is you pick a random distribution of how the pieces on the back are arranged. And I'm not a chess expert, but it basically randomizes so you can't memorize all the moves. So you're actually going back to sort of first principles. And it sort of levels the playing field away from just pure memorization and memory.
That's kind of cool.
And so that's a more pure sort of thinking game. But yeah, I always like probabilistic games. And so thinking about how to constrain the probability field or the range of outputs of an LLM certainly suits me. And poker's an interesting game because you don't even know what game you're playing. Are you playing the maths? Are you playing like the game theory optimal, like no one can exploit me? Or are you playing an exploitative game or exploitative defense? And every hand is different and every session is completely different. And you're changing up the levels of where you're actually playing. And it's a beautiful, beautiful game for that reason. It doesn't look beautiful on the surface, but it's like, are you playing the long game? Are you playing the short game? Are you trying to survive in a tournament? Like it's a crazy game with lots of variance, and you have to manage the probability. And you can have the situation where you can make the right decision and lose a lot of money, possibly all of it. And you still would have to make the same decision every time. And learning from things where you're right but you lost, and vice versa, like you were wrong but you won.
And you have to know that you were right and still lost, so you don't like change that behavior.
Right. Exactly. So that's a crazy game. And that applies perfectly to business, and it also applies perfectly to managing the probabilistic output range of an LLM as well. So really our jobs as engineers working with LLMs is trying to narrow the range of outputs that it can come up with. And then we assemble, committees and hierarchies of LLMs to make sure that, humans are less involved, because we can't do human review on everything.
Right.
And really what's maybe missing on most engineering teams is like the idea that humans have to review everything. It's like, well, do they? Because think of the stakes. When the stakes are low, you should let AI do it. When the stakes are high, you should absolutely have humans spend the most time there. And not all things to review are equal.
Yeah, that definitely terrifies me, because like I'm definitely still stuck in the mindset that I don't want to allow the possibility of bad code going in my code base. So I'm the bottleneck reviewing everything.
Right.
And I don't know how to get past that either. Like what safeguards do you put in place to make sure the right code is being generated, the right kind of tests are being written without verifying it,
Well, and I don't know which project you're talking about, but you're talking about, you've got a few side projects.
Any project really, but yeah, like for instance, like Kill Switch is a good example because, I'm using encryption. People have to trust me with properly encrypting files and text and all of that good stuff. And yeah, I can't not look at that.
What is Kill Switch for those who don't know?
I think everyone that watches this podcast probably knows, but it's essentially like an encrypted document storage with dead man switches. So you can add beneficiaries to any of your files, notes, whatever it may be, and then if you stop checking in, and you can set that window whatever you want it to be, then it will send out to your beneficiaries. And
Yeah,
I've
so
been adding.
don't go offline for too long.
Don't go offline for too long.
Yeah,
But it's been a lot of
that's
fun.
super
And
cool. So it's sort of like, you know, so yeah, well, like when the switch triggers because you haven't responded, like, you know, your special set of secret stuff is released to
yeah,
your
you have to
family,
be careful.
friends, and so forth.
Well, so one thing that's cool, I create like signing tokens for each share link that's created. So like every person that receives access to your document, you can revoke at your level. So like if things accidentally go out, you can revoke everything and then they lose access as long as they haven't already downloaded it. But
right. Yeah, I don't think we've managed to create the what's the word? the encryption for like once it hit human eyeballs.
Yeah.
It's basically
the
unencrypted.
Men in Black
and
flash just.
Are you flashy thingy me?
Yeah.
So
all right, I'm gonna just put this on hold for 1 second and play a quick ad, and then we'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Kimberly with Elixir Mentor. Jacob recently added recruitment services to help companies hire pre-vetted Elixir devs. I help with company outreach, so if you're hiring, I may be reaching out, or you can connect with us anytime at elixirmentor.com.
Coding Elixir with AI or building AI into your Elixir apps? The Elixir AI Collective Discord is your community for both. Link in the description below. And we're back. Now I forgot what we were talking about. I always distract
well, we were
myself.
talking about kill switch and agentic engineering.
Yeah,
and
so
managing probabilistic stuff. Well, I had a question for you first. You're using Ash and Elixir and LiveView, I'm assuming.
Yep,
in your
LiveView, Elixir, Ash. Yep.
And how are you finding that?
Oh, I mean, I love it now. I would say so. Kill switch, I feel like I went into kind of already like I got it. Like I know how to use Ash now, but like with projects prior to it, I was like, I know how to do this the normal way. How do I do this the Ash way? And that was like the hardest thing, right? Because then you're like, okay, I can do this multi-tenant app. I know how to do this with just migrations and my database, but how the F do I do this in Ash? And like, so I would have moments like that where I would just beat my head on the table. And then it's as simple as adding a freaking one-liner to your resource, you know, and you have a multi-tenant application essentially. But so like once you know those tricks, Ash is amazing, right? Because now I can make things multi-tenant or, multi-tenancy ability with one-liners and config files essentially.
Yeah. And the idea is that, like in 30 years, I've built a lot of apps, seen a lot of apps being built, and you see the same patterns over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so it was always funny that, it was always the super, battle scarred super senior engineers that got Ash straight away because it was like, oh God, I don't have to do this thing again. Because it's like someone solved this problem, like for real this time. And, it's funny that, as we, tried to explain Ash to people, Zach and I sort of went to ElixirConf in the US in, I think it was 22. And we were trying to explain it to people and it just didn't land at all. And it's like the people that really got it were like, oh, you solved these problems, so I don't have to do it again. And then the people that are less experienced actually have an easier time going, oh, like I don't have to know how to do that. Like it just does it for me. Oh, awesome. Yeah. And so it ended up being like almost like a midwit meme. So like the people in the middle, like who are still cutting their teeth, learning how to code and haven't made all the mistakes yet, actually want to write code and want to learn by making the mistakes themselves without having it's spoon-fed to them. And so actually in the middle of the sort of range of experience were the most resistant to Ash ideas, because it's
interesting.
like, well, I just got my coding badge and I need to learn this stuff myself.
So you feel like the mid-level developers are the least likely to like Ash?
Interesting. They hate it. In our experience,
well,
obviously that's a generalization, but we've talked to a lot of people, and the most resistance comes from, the middle.
Well, I also feel like Elixir is stuffed full of a lot of senior level people as well. Like, we have our beginners, but a lot of us come from the battles and headaches of other tech stacks. And then when we find Elixir, we're like, we're never leaving. So I think there's that too, right?
I don't have any plans to leave.
I don't want to.
Well,
I made up my own job. I made up my own jobs just so I could write Elixir before I, got my official first Elixir paying job,
Hey, I started a company so I could do the same.
I did the same thing, but I struggled. I tried to start a consultancy and it was hard. I suck at getting clients and it was a lot of hard work. And then I ended up just getting a lot of website clients. And I was like, well, this sucks. I don't want to just make websites all day.
Yeah. I mean, look, running your own business is hard.
It
any
is.
Founder out there, founder life, if you know, you know.
Yeah. I'm stuck in it for some reason. I can't stop torturing myself.
Well, once it's a double-edged sword, right? It's sort of like you get more freedom from the traditional employment relationship, but at a cost of
less.
There's freedom. A lot of you actually get more freedom, but less, because your boss just shifts to something else.
I don't know. For all my projects, my boss is a real asshole.
Right? And sometimes you are your own worst boss.
Exactly.
I'm probably harder on myself than
dude. I don't give myself any breaks. It's just like, okay, day job is over. Now you're grinding until you can't stay awake.
Right. So yes, the grind is real. And look, 9 years of running a consultancy, it's been a challenge. And look, it's been, I know a ton of the Elixir agencies, and certainly it's been a while since I caught up with a lot of the other small consultancy and sort of studios and agencies around Sydney and Australia. But I know a bunch of them, and not everyone made it through the last sort of 3-4 years.
I feel like the last 4 years have been rough on software.
Brutal, I think. Yeah. Brutal. So, even just surviving through that is definitely success.
Yeah.
And, because not everyone made it. And certainly, wallets and purses snap shut about, after post-COVID, and there was free money for a bit, and then suddenly there wasn't.
Yeah.
So the ZIRP, or the zero interest rate, meant that basically borrowing money was effectively free. Mm-hmm. And so there was a little party for a while, and there was lots of money and lots of, craziness going on, and then reality bites, and purses snap shut.
The fake growth bubble, or whatever you want to call it. Because I feel like even like SaaS companies or tech companies in general, not just consultancies, they all just bloated their payroll and then they mass lay it off, and we're still seeing that now.
The news recently was Block doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And, funnily enough, I do know the head of engineering of Block, and he came out, he lives in overseas, and came out for Christmas one time, and he was talking about just how many engineers they had. And I'm like, I can't even reason about how many engineers you have, buddy. Like, what do you do with them all?
Yeah.
And so I guess I got my answer a week ago. It's like, actually, maybe you had a few too many.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't, I think, just an AI story, although that's a nice take for the investor crowd, and it's an easy story to swallow, but I don't think that was the whole story.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think so. Collex is my day job, really awesome company, right? And they're very bold. Like our CEO and CTO are very bold on like AI moving forward. But like no one at our company talks as AI as like a replacement, more just like like an accelerator for all of us. Like it adds superpowers to all of us. And so we
I mean,
always
it's
talk about how we use it and what our workflows look like. And we have like weekly calls about it, just so like if someone starts doing something differently, but it works really well, we all talk about it.
yeah, yeah, we're doing the same. And look, it's hard to keep up. There's 4 Claude
It
releases
is.
of Claude Code per day. It's like
Yeah, it's
just keeping
wild.
up with that is difficult. I was describing it to my business partner and wife, because she isn't like, she's like, oh, why aren't we just sharing all this stuff? And I'm like, it's like having Christmas every hour and you opening all your presents and you don't have time to get to them all. And certainly the ones you've opened, you don't even have time to play with. And so there's this giant pile of toys behind you and you're like, this Christmas sucks. Like, I don't get to play with any of my toys. It's just all the dopamine of opening the presents and going, oh, maybe this is good. I don't know.
I can't even
But
keep up on like just reading the change logs, and I'm trying to be a better person about that.
right.
Oh,
But, like, I think you can probably agree that we're able to do much more now. And we don't know where the limits are either. It's like, what are the limits? We don't know. And people are busy finding it out. And I think, I think, who said it? I think it was Carpathy may have said, like, I've never felt so behind, because you can sort of see where the possibilities are and you're not there. And it's almost like a restatement of Dunning-Kruger, where the people that know the most actually think they're the dumbest and know the least, because they're aware of how much there is to know and how little they actually know in relative amounts to the total.
The Dunning-Kruger curve is real.
It's totally real. And so the people that are most knowledgeable actually think they are the least knowledgeable because they know what's possible. And
except for Mike Hostetler, I can't keep up with that guy. Can you keep up with him?
No.
I think he's running agents in his own brain and he's just always working. I don't even know.
I keep chatting to Mike and I'm like, oh my God, dude, like, I don't know how you do it all.
I don't either. Trying to figure it out myself.
Some level of LLMs is the answer, but yeah, it's like, I always thought Jose Valim was like 10 developers in a long trench coat. It's like, how does he keep doing what he's doing for as long as he's done it?
It's for incredible. Him, Zack Daniel is another one. Like, I don't know how he does everything and like how responsive he is too with like Ash questions. Like, dude, I don't even want to respond to people in my Elixir Discord. I mean, I love that everyone's in there and I like chatting, but it's like when there's like a question, it's like, oh, that's going to take me like 20 minutes to actually thoughtfully answer. And I was like,
no, Zach, like an SLA of milliseconds.
Yeah.
It's and wild. Actually, Zach's now head of engineering, I think his title, and he's sort of running a pretty massive team at Remedy Meds. And like I think that has tied him up. And so
he's slowing down a little, right?
We just had to put some anchors on Zach so that he could create some space so more contributors could come in, because no one could beat Zach to answering questions or
even writing features.
Bug, right?
Yeah.
And so actually slowing Zach down was the best thing to happen to the Ash ecosystem. Ironically, like you wouldn't think that would be true, but it's like, I definitely, begged Zach to like just create some room for other people to step in, and he couldn't. And so actually, like,
I get it. When something is your baby, it's hard to
it's your baby, right?
Reins,
and, And he was like his, I guess, iterative OODA loop. If anyone knows that, it's the observe, orient, decide, and act. His OODA loops were just so fast, no one could compete.
Yeah.
And basically, there was an interesting Andreessen chat where he described the OODA loop. And it's kind of a generally applicable thing, and it's worth calling out the story. But it was created or sort of coined by a fighter pilot. And basically this fighter pilot was just so fast at observing, orienting, deciding, and acting that he won every dogfight. And so it was about having a tighter OODA loop than your competitors or adversaries in a sort of aerial dogfight. Because if you can do the observe, orient, decide, and act faster, you've changed the state of the world. And if your opponent's OODA loop is slower, they have to start again. And so if they've only got to deciding and they haven't acted yet, if you've acted and they see that, then they have to start at observe and you actually create, if you're tight enough of a loop, you create a psychological break because you can never do anything because you have to keep starting again. and that was like a completely wild idea. And I think, definitely applicable to a lot of scenarios. But I mean, the OODA loop is also the scientific method, right? It's sort of keep trying some things and seeing what happens, and depending on the response from the world,
rinse and repeat.
Learn some things and do it again. And what is FAFO? Can we swear on this show?
Yeah, I mean, it's YouTube, I think.
It's fuck around and find out is the scientific method. It's like do some things, learn, rinse and repeat. That's all it is. And it's interesting that we're seeing that you program LLMs to do that, and you get sort of evolutionary intelligence. And I was kind of joking about AGI getting closer because Jeff Huntley is rediscovering Ash and Elixir. Like
it's cool to see people talking about it at the access of the popularity of these people bringing Elixir back into the game. I also saw someone this isn't going to surprise you, but the Rust community wants to rebuild Erlang and Rust.
Well, I mean, I think we've tried that a few times ourselves as the Elixir community, and look, I'm here for it. I mean, it's a difficult thing to do because there's more to Beam than meets the eye, and I think there was a pretty interesting Twitter. I'm not going to call it the new thing. Twitter conversation recently about exactly that. And I think, it's sort of like, oh, you don't understand the Beam, language wars. We don't have them very often, but, it helps to be
what's wild polite to me
and welcoming.
I sound like a broken record on my podcast, at least, because what's wild to me is Beam and Erlang solved all of our problems today back in the mid 80s.
Right.
We're having the same problems. It's just a different mask on them, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, what I've been seeing the last sort of month or so is people basically putting an LLM inside their Kubernetes cluster and then going, oh, we can spot the problems and fix them and restart the thing. And I'm like, oh, self-healing systems. Erlang's had that since 1986, man. 40 years of self-healing systems. I want to get a t-shirt, actually. Self-healing since 1986. And so what's interesting about that is part of that is self-healing. And, obviously with supervision trees and limiting the blast radius, you can fix the problem, limit its blast radius and not affect other things, and restart it in a known good state. So, that is a brutally effective and simple strategy. It seems complicated, but it's no, just have a tree of things, and then
let
something
things fail,
fails,
let things crash, and start it back up.
Start it back up in a known good state. I mean, how do you fix most technical problems?
Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in?
Have you tried turning it on and turning it off again? Turning it off and turning it on again? That's basically the Beam in a nutshell. In terms of how you need to understand supervision trees. It's and the bigger the tree and the smaller the pieces, the less, impact any failure at any part of the system can affect any other part of the system. And that's such a brutally simple idea. And I don't think people appreciate the elegance and simplicity of that as much as they should. And people think it's the actor model, which, is it the actor model? Certainly Beam was invented and Erlang sort of
Dude, I wish, honestly, I wish it would have saved me a lot of time. My learning curve when I learned how to program with object-oriented programming was so difficult. I could not wrap my head around.
It wasn't just you, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't
struggled.
understand, like inheritance sort of made this logical sense, but it didn't make any sense at all. Like, I'm like, this seems simple, but why is it so wrong?
And then like,
it probably took me over a decade to figure that out.
Well, and it has so many flaws, which is why we have so many patterns to follow, right? Because if you don't follow specific architectural patterns, you're going to have a hell of a time debugging or having a stable project. And then like all of these like patterns in Elixir and Erlang, you just have to use the language and there's just a way to use it. And you don't really follow specific patterns. You're just using patterns because that's just how things work.
And here's the thing is that, you and I probably took a decade-long plus detour into OO and never felt like we got it. And I probably beat myself up going, you must be really dumb if you can't understand this.
You know what I hate the most out of OO world is singletons. And just like shared state and the fact that you can fuck around with an object in multiple places and have race conditions that are almost impossible to track down and just alter data without knowing where it's being altered from. That drives me insane.
It's funny that you mentioned singletons, but yes, scars were had because I did like Java and EJBs and like, Spring came along as dependency injection, which wasn't the best dependency injection solution by any stretch because it was all XML and like, and I'm like, what I realized actually a long time later is that, when I joined a mob in London hacking away, it was like the early ThoughtWorks office and they were building their own dependency injection framework. And what I realized a lot later is that I'd actually been doing exactly the same thing in my Java files because I'm like, oh, well, I've got two implementations of this interface. And I'm like, there's sort of structural strategies. I'm like, I want to boot up my app with one or the other, like depending on what I need when I run it. And I'm like, well, how can you do that? And what I realized was, you just need to be able to dynamically set from outside what the implementation is. And you could pass that as a parameter to your program. But what I decided to use was, if you remember Java properties files, they basically were just kind of like TOML.
Sadly, I do remember.
It was just a key equals a value, kind of like an environment file or whatever. It was just key equals value.
Dude, I remember.
And so what I did was I had like the interface full qualified package name equals the implementation that I wanted. And so what I didn't realize until way, way later is I independently had invented dependency injection. But you can do dependency injection and everyone goes, oh, what is that? It took me years to figure out. It was just pass some arguments to your functions. And then this is how I teach functional programming now is like, well, any high school kid, middle schoolers, I think, learn f of x. When do you learn f of x in America?
Oh, that's like algebra. So,
right? I mean, I taught my daughter that, like f of x.
I want to say like freshman, sophomore year of high school.
Probably. How old are you at that point?
You would be like 14.
Right. So you knew the secret of functional programming at age 14.
Yeah.
And you were certainly capable of understanding it way earlier than that. And f of x is it. Like, it's a pure function. It takes arguments. You don't suddenly grab like other state or arguments from anywhere else.
But x can change over here too.
Right. I mean, imagine maths, how hard it would be if suddenly like stuff could change your f of x.
Yeah.
Like, or it started sending emails or printing stuff
yeah,
out.
it'd be confusing. But yeah, I've always said that. I've always said if I started with a functional, like immutable language where you're just transforming data and you know exactly where it's being changed, it would have been life-changing for me to learn. I would have learned so much quicker.
And I think, you know, as functional programmers, you know, it's probably, you know, on us to teach people just how simple it is. And, you know, I've done this because people have forgotten. They got taught or like overcomplicated stuff. And if you strip all the nonsense away, it's just f of x.
Yeah.
And that is the most brutally simple and effective way to teach functional programming to anyone, even children. And so I think actually, you know, in this age, perhaps the people that have yet to learn where the limits are and be sort of taught wrong things probably have more scope to go further because they can skip to the end without this detour that we've had. As you know, we did like wasted a decade in the OO mines. I mean, and, you know, wasted a decade not thinking f of x was the answer. Just pass some arguments in your functions.
The problem with developers and software engineers is we're like very hard-headed and you never want to be wrong. So shifting your mind, like I ignored Elixir for like 2 years. I had a buddy telling me, you got to check this out. You're going to love it. It's like, dude, I don't have time for that. I'm busy in Node.js, bro.
When your friends say that, you should probably listen. They care about you.
Well, I know. And I say it all the time because then like I started one of my like a bootstrapped business. It was a marketplace. And I was like, all right, let me look into this Elixir thing. And like on paper, I was like, okay, this is what I need. This is perfect. And like on paper, I understood the shiny things. And then I started learning it. And I definitely didn't understand supervision trees and gen servers and like OTP and all this stuff. When I first started, I just like started kind of writing a REST API like you would in JavaScript. And I like relearned and rewrote things over and over again and just learned the hard way. But I did it right away on a project and I'm like really happy I did that. But then I was like, dude, that was hard. And that's actually what inspired me starting my YouTube channel. I was like, I'm going to teach people how to get like off the ground and running quicker than I did because I just want people to build their projects.
You know, like as an older person and with more experience and some learnings under your belt, you can definitely pave the path behind you so it's easier. For sure.
With saying that, you know, I need to get back in motion with my Ash course because I've just kind of ignored that for.
Oh yeah, what happened with that? I saw the first lot and it was amazing. I was like, this is very ambitious, Jacob.
I know. Well, it's really good. It's a fun project. I just like a lot in life caught up to me, and I kind of just like burned out on making tutorials, and now I feel like things are slowing back down. So I just have to like get back in the motions of like recording a video, like maybe just once a week and just get going.
Yeah. Good habits, you know, little steps.
Yeah. It's easy to lose them. That's the thing. And then I feel guilty. Like it's an extra guilt because all these people are like, when are the next videos coming out? I'm so excited. And then like you feel obligated to these people for your free content, but like I love helping people, so I want to do it.
Right. Look, and it's the stuff that, you know, you do for the love of it and because you want to and because you care. Yeah. And then, you know, life has a funny way of paying that back sometimes. Yeah. And really it's about, you know, movement and motion, just doing stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't have any of my jobs right now without starting my YouTube channel. You know, like,
yeah,
that's kind of cool. And like this podcast, I get to meet all the coolest people in the Elixir community because they come on my podcast and talk to me.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think you've collected a very interesting and amazing bunch of people. I've been kind of jealous of your guest list. I'm delighted to be included on it.
I mean, you're one of them. You're one of the awesome people on my guest list, so it's cool. Thanks, I'm just surprised all these people want to talk to me. You know,
well, I think, you know, you're the lightning rod, mate. It's like someone has to do the organizing and, bring people together. And that's a really valuable skill, because I think, a language community is more than the technical stuff. It's about how do you sustain and grow that community and keep it as great as it is. Because I think, like Elixir may be an amazing language, and the Beam may have been self-healing since 1986, but and have some insanely great ideas that, maybe the words are complicated and a bit scary, but the ideas are like elegantly simple. And so, like, don't be put off by the crazy words. But, like, I've organized community stuff for probably nearly a decade. I've sort of lapsed because I did a lot of travel last year on organizing Elixir Sydney. And recently shut off my meetup.com subscription, which was costing a lot of money, and I still had meetups that we weren't really
It kind of sucks that
And-
it's so expensive to use Meetup now. I remember when
So
it was
expensive.
free.
And it's so expensive. And then they do that like blackmail thing. So if anyone's listening on the Elixir City, it's like, it's still a thing. We'll do some more things, I promise. And yeah, like, they're gonna do the blackmail. Hey, your organizers step down. Who wants to step up? And it's like auctioning off the Elixir Sydney thing. Yeah, it's, it'd be a shame if something would happen to your meetup. And then it's sort of like extortion.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no, I'm done. And look, I think, we should all, I haven't managed to achieve this yet, but if you're listening and you run a meetup, you should probably move off meetup.com and go to Luma, because that is way, way better. It's free unless you charge money, which typically meetups do not charge money. And so it's free and the experience is really good. And you can it's a slightly different thing. So it's not really designed, it's designed for events rather than meetups, but it perfectly suits running meetups. But you can have calendars that contain other calendars. So you could have an Elixir global calendar, you could have an Elixir Australia calendar, or sort of different hierarchies. And there's no sort of limits about how you can constrain the containment of different meetups, for example. But the language does confuse when you first see it. But yeah, we're going to be using Luma from here on out, and I recommend that other people do. Luma. Do you have meetups where you are?
We do. I'm horrible at get into them. There's an Elixir meetup that tries to meet like once a month, like just south of Salt Lake City. And I kind of slack at going, but when I do make it, it's fun. Like you see all these guys that are all like working Elixir developers for the most part. And, I recognize I'm horrible with names and faces. Oh, I'll remember faces, horrible with names, but it's cool.
I'm the same.
It's cool when you like start seeing the same people at everything. And I also like kind of enjoy, because like I do this is my spotlight, but when I'm in person, I can like kind of take a back seat and just enjoy speakers and things, and it's kind of nice.
Yeah, for sure. And it's its own reward. I mean, I used to sort of treat it as a monthly excuse to get out of the office and just socialize with a regular crew and talk tech.
I like when I'm like in it, but getting there is the hard part. Like, I'm like, do I really want to drive and go socialize?
Well, exactly. And I think the challenge is, post-COVID meetups were never quite the same. And, we kept running online stuff. And then, geography doesn't really matter at that point. It's just time zone. Yeah. And so, I think, meetups were never quite the same. And certainly when they came back after COVID, that like we had some really big meetups in Sydney. And then I think just everyone's not working in the city anymore. Like, yeah, it used to be huge because everyone would be in the city. It'd be like, oh, like after work, I'll go have a drink. And
I feel like that's what it was, right? Like it was your commute home. So you didn't drive very far. Like, right. If you're driving 20 minutes to work, but your meetup's 5 minutes from the office, it's a lot easier to, make that excuse to swing by on your way home.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like in Australia, if you work in the city, you're probably not driving your car. And so you're getting public
Yeah.
transport. And so it was, even easier if you can go from your office, walk to the central meetup, and we had a lot more people then. And I think most people are sitting at home watching YouTube, maybe this, and that's why when meetups aren't quite the same
and
anymore,
people can
because
chat with us live. Like we got, let's see,
who's saying what? I can't see any of the chat, unfortunately.
If you go over to the YouTube live stream, you can see it. But Steve said he just picked up the Ash book. A lot of fun so far, and I told him it's a great book. And Jura,
Steve could probably find my my quote about the half.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Ash thing. It's in the forward somewhere.
And then
I can't remember what I called it.
Jura, sorry if I'm butchering your names, guys. He just said he loves Ash. And then Vic goes, dude, I love your channel. I'm studying to make my career change from JS full stack to Elixir. And he's from Peru.
Good choice.
It's a good move, dude. You won't regret it. That was pretty much.
You really won't.
I was JavaScript backend. I always did backend stuff, and I did Swift and a lot of iOS development, and I don't want to touch any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So you mentioned Micah Stetler, who's a legend, and he has just released Jido 2, which is super exciting. Yeah. But we catch up fairly regularly, and he told me that he was actually part of the jQuery core team way back when.
Oh yeah, he was. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
I love jQuery. When I discovered that dollar thing, I'm like, oh my God. And so for anyone who's sort of new to the web, like jQuery was the giant Band-Aid that you put across browsers so that any of your stuff would actually work. And so if you're now used to document, selectors where everything's on document and you can find things in a DOM by CSS selectors or do stuff that used to not be true. And jQuery was the solution. And it's still around. Like jQuery is used massively on, if you want to do vanilla JS with no framework, jQuery is the thing that
wild.
I cut my teeth on, and it would get you very far, and you'd be like reacting to individual events, and then you'd end up going, "Oh, I've just created the world's greatest spaghetti," and then you really needed because you'd be like, "Oh, how do these things interact?" And you couldn't reason about it at a certain scale. It was great until it wasn't.
Yeah. Most things are great until
anything that's good gets hoovered into a lot of what made jQuery great got hoovered into actually the web APIs, which is pretty cool.
I forget.
So sometimes you serve as the Band-Aid until the thing gets fixed. And jQuery
Mike became my friend when I first started doing vibe coding live streams on Saturday, when LLMs just started getting good enough to kind of build small projects. I had a couple vibe coding live streams with guests on where I made them teach me the tooling. It was great. And then Mike reached out and I had him on, and that was the beginning of our friendship, and it's been fun. And now I can't keep up with the man.
Mike's a legend. I haven't chatted to him in a few weeks, and
I want to try to get to Elixir Conf in Chicago because he's in the Chicago area, and it'd be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be going to Malaga for Elixir Conf EU, and
nice.
I'll be swinging past San Fran and Chicago along the way. Just because, I'm on this constantly rotating around the world ticket.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like you're always traveling.
Well, it's the cheapest way to do it. It's by a long way.
Once you're doing it, just keep going.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of my trip right now. I started in Oslo in September after Goatmire.
Nice.
Made it home, and I'm on a very long stopover. But I caught up with Mike last time as well, and he took me out to his favorite steak restaurant, and that was
nice.
Awesome. He is a scholar and a gentleman, and you should definitely check out Jido. There's a lot there, but the way that it's been put together is pretty amazing. So you've got first-class agentic programming. You've got just an insane amount of tools in the tool belt. Possibly too many. So many is overwhelming, and certainly I've only dabbled, but some of the team have been diving into it. And
I got to get Mike back on. He's supposed to be making content for my channel for Jido, and he's been slacking.
Oh yeah, Mike.
But I can't throw him any stones because I'm slacking.
Well, I don't know whether Mike's been slacking. Maybe on this particular topic.
He's not slacking on development. He's just slacking on creating content for me.
There you go. Well, there you go. You heard it first, Mike. It's time to come back.
Yeah, Mike, stop slacking. But join his Discord too if you're interested in any like agentic programming. Like the Jido Discord's really awesome. A lot of smart guys in there. I can't keep up. I am so bad at keeping up in Discord communities, but
I can't keep up anymore. It's like, I've reached my limit. I need a bot.
And like Ash is a crazy Discord community too. I can't keep up with that one either.
Yeah, there is a lot happening. And like there's a Jido, I think it's Ash Jido. It's like first class connections to creating agentic programming on top of the Ash
I did see
application.
that. That's really cool.
So if you've got Ash, like there's a connector to Jido World for that. And that's
I need to bring Mike back on and make him just teach me stuff again. That's the only way I have time. I just make a live stream and I box it out.
Right? This is why I did meetups, dude. It's like, I want to learn stuff on a regular basis. I'll just set up the meetup. And if I couldn't find speakers, I would have to learn something and tell everyone about it.
There you go. Well, like it's really funny. People always
public speaking.
People always be like, how do you have time for your podcast? It's like, it's great because I just bring smart people on that are doing cool things and they tell me about it. It's like my free education pass and I have to pay attention because I'm talking to them. So
the secret's out. Yeah, that's why I did meetups. It's like I wanted to learn stuff and I wanted to catch up with cool people every month. And so I just did that.
Yeah, my podcast is purely selfish, dude. Like it's for me. But
I mean, I did meetups for everyone, but it was mainly for me.
Yeah, I get it.
I've got to find the time to bring that back. But I don't know if the age of meetups is really over. And I think maybe when we all spend way too much time in front of our computers, it's like actually healthy to go and meet in person.
I think so. I think it's good to meet in person and just like, who was I just talking with? It's like just I was just down in Austin for the XMEX conference, the small one.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was awesome.
I got mad at Nathan for putting it at the same time as
else.
And I couldn't go.
It was like same time as Beam.
It was
Beam Ops or whatever, Code Beam,
and I was like, oh man, like I know this is just for me, but could you just shift it by week?
Yeah.
He obviously told me to get lost. I'm like,
but he did such a good job.
If you don't ask, you don't get, right?
Right. Well, it was worth it. It was worth asking. It was worth a try.
Was it great? Like
it was great. Like honestly, like the talks were all great, right? But the best part was like it was such a small conference. You had time to talk to everyone in between talks and at lunch. And so you meet a lot of really cool people. And that, like, I can't remember who I was just talking to, but it's like that, like the hallway talk is how you solve problems. Like you could just be like, hey, I'm like, I don't know, my absinthe graph queries are like joining my tables in like a horrible way. And I don't want it to do that. Like you can talk about all these problems that you might have that you don't know how to solve. And 9 times out of 10, someone you're talking to or overhearing your conversation has been there. And
well, exactly. And like the hallway track is, if you haven't been to conferences or it's been a while, like the hallway track is really where it's at. I mean, talks are great, but and people put a lot of effort into talks, but you can watch the video later, but it is important to see the talks because you can then chat about that stuff with folks in the hallway. Yes. And so you're never gonna it always feels terrible when you've got 3 tracks and I'm like, if I see one, I'm missing 2, and then it's like I always find that super overwhelming.
Yeah, the single track's the way to go. I really like the smallness of the single track. You don't have decisions to make. And
the decision is like, am I in the thing or am I having chats outside?
Exactly.
And so, look, Goatmire was the pinnacle of small regional conferences.
I heard that it was a lot of fun. It was really well done.
It was so good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Lars is cooking up another one
Nice. Awesome.
already, and so you should probably look at Goatmire 2 in the little town of Varberg in western
That would be
Sweden.
fun. That would be fun. I got to start making appearances, because I think it'd also be fun to like kind of change it up and do some like live podcast episodes with people. Just snatch them out of the hallway, throw a lapel mic on them, and go. I think it could be fun.
Yeah. I mean, look, capturing the conversations that happen at those kind of conferences is certainly, that would be a lot of content gold.
Yeah.
And look, fun. I was introduced to the small regional conference, certainly in Elixir, at Big Elixir, which was in New Orleans in, I don't know what year that was, 2022, I think it was.
Okay.
And that was amazing. It was sort of in an old New Orleans theater, the Petite Theater. It wasn't really catered. Like, you went out for lunch and you grabbed some folks and found some po' boys or whatever you could find on the streets of New Orleans. It was so fun. And it's a shame that hasn't happened since. But
yeah, that's how XMEX was. It was nice. We would just grab a group of guys and just go to a local restaurant at lunch, and that was it. And then we'd grab some drinks afterwards at the end of the day, and then rinse and repeat.
I was sad that I couldn't make that one. Austin is a fun town, but yeah, New
Austin
Orleans
is a very fun town. I've never been to New Orleans, and I'm sure that's a fun town. It seems like it would be.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. It's like, I'm surprised that you haven't been there, but it's like, I had this sort of very interesting idea of what New Orleans would be like. Mm-hmm. And it was quite different to what I imagined, but it was also similar in some ways.
I just imagine it smelling
it's
piss
like
and
super European.
Beer. I don't know.
No, I think Bourbon Street.
Yeah,
there's a crazy on all the time, and certainly they like a very liberal free pour of hard spirits.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Wisconsin. We're the same way.
The secret's in the name of Bourbon Street, and then Mardi Gras is just kind of crazy. But look, you find your own kind of fun, and certainly it's a super European feeling town, and it just feels old and different to anywhere else in America.
Yeah, it looks like it'd be fun. One of these days I'll get there. I have not been to Nashville either, and I need to go.
I haven't been to Nashville. Closest I've been is Chattanooga, I think.
Okay, nice. That's Bruce and Maggie's conference, right?
Yeah, I heard rumors. I don't know if they're substantiated that they're not doing Geek City this year, which would be a shame.
No.
But that is another amazing.
I've heard good things. I wanted
conference.
to make it out to that one as well.
Yeah, I've been to the last couple, and they're amazing. And Maggie and Bruce are the consummate hosts. And
I've heard.
Chattanooga's a fun old town. And if they're not doing it this year, then certainly give them your support and make sure they come back bigger and better next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's tough running conferences. There's not a lot of money in it, and it's hard work, and it's a roller coaster. So really, all I can do is say, throw your small regional conference organizers your support, because those are the things that make community, I think.
I agree. I've always had in the back of my mind to do a Salt Lake City one, but I don't know. It seems like
you heard it here first, folks. Salt Lake City 2027. I've been probably doing the same about a Sydney one.
We'll go on a camping trip in the mountains and then talk Elixir. How about that?
Hey, I have this. So we used to do Elixir camps. We've never done an Elixir conference in Australia, but we used to do Elixir camps, and that has been kind of between a meetup and a conference. It's sort of like a weekend trip away, and it was based off Rails camps, which we did from 2005, 2006.
Did you? I feel like you shared this with me a few months ago.
I probably did.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I may have showed you the sort of thing that I sort of
blueprint, the idea behind it.
Well, okay, and I may as well talk about it here. It's
of course.
Elixir.camp, the domain, and that was where we ran 5 really amazing Elixir camps pre-COVID. So it sort of all fell apart in 2020. And so we haven't done one since, but we would get like 50 plus people out to, somewhere in the bush, camp if you want, or sort of, scout camp or sport and rec camp, summer camp, I think, for Americans. That kind of vibe. And then you had sort of bunk beds and dorm beds and like just, there wasn't enough people to fill it up. So you sort of pick where you wanted to sleep or bring a tent if you wanted to just be.
Yeah, that would be fun. Minus like I don't want to bunk with anyone, but camping and just like having like mountain bike activities or rock climbing and then some Elixir too.
So you should totally organize one of those because it's certainly easier than organizing a whole conference, and you have a much smaller sort of crowd of sort of 30 to 50 folks, making friends and talking about tech and just whatever.
Yeah.
And, mixing some hacking and working on some stuff.
I always thought it'd be cool to do the angle of like, I know there's like a lot of masterminds and groups out there to try to help, but like being the technical founder and like running a successful like SaaS company, like I struggle with the actual sales of my SaaS company, right? I can build the product and then it's hard to bring on the users. And I think it'd be awesome to have a group of the same kind of people, some more successful, some less, but like have conversations around marketing and user acquisition and like just learn from a campfire conversation,
I think that stuff exists, but the format is, very doable. There's a bit of organizing to do, but it's not a whole conference.
Right.
And it's sort of like an unconference, if you will. You can have, people sort of sign up for talks, but it can be very informal and ad hoc, and you don't have to be in the talks or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, look, I've sort of published a proto blueprint for that, but I will publish that. But I do think there is like micro SaaS conferences and
there
are indie hacking events and stuff.
And like Rob Walling has a lot of stuff out there, a lot of content. He wrote the SaaS playbook. I actually had him on as a guest a couple weeks ago, I think now. It's all a blur, but he's awesome and he's doing really cool stuff. But I think it'd be like even cooler to like, niche down even more and like build that same kind of community for Elixir developers that are running their own SaaS. And then
right. Yeah, look, and I think, in any kind of distribution game, sales and marketing is definitely one of those.
Yeah. And I'd be curious to see, like
developers are not great at.
Well, we talk about how great, Claude Code is with helping us write code and, all of that. I'd love to see how like salespeople and marketers are using AI to make their lives easier, learn new tricks.
When you can sort of wave a magic wand and you've got anything you can think of built for you to some degree, maybe it's not ready to put in front of a load of people, but certainly, anything you can think of, you can basically build now. And the limit is your imagination. And so often when you can build something that quickly, the bottleneck becomes, well, how do I get it out to people and distribute it? And, that is largely where a lot of the problems are going to be is in, well, if you can build anything, how do you sell it to people? And that is what software developers are traditionally extremely bad at.
Yep.
And, I don't think we're going to really want to know how to stand out in an extremely crowded market because communicating that stuff is a real skill for sure. Mm-hmm. So connecting disparate communities for sure would be very cool.
Yeah.
But it'd be fun. I'm going to hold myself to putting like a blueprint out for running Elixir camps because we learned a ton doing that in the Rails camp.
That would be awesome.
There was one in the US and like people could just run their own.
Yeah.
And I think it's the perfect sort of small regional conference thing. And you can mix some.
We'll have to make it like we'll have to time
content.
it with your pit stop before Chicago, right? Right here in Salt Lake. So
we should get cooking on that. I'm about to have to book my next round the world ticket because that's how I get home from Malaga.
That's awesome.
So I've got to book a whole nother round the world ticket.
Yeah.
So I have
You pick the longest
my
flights to
travel
go
very
and you
far
just
in
go,
advance.
huh?
Yeah. Hey, how are we doing on time, by the way?
I think we're good. Like, we can wrap things up. This has been a lot of fun, though.
Yeah,
And
man. I kind of figured, what are we going to talk about? And then
I was like, dude,
you did.
you don't have to worry. It's going to go.
just
Yeah,
pull the string and see what happens.
exactly. That's the way to go. And we'll have to bring you back
it feels
on.
like, we've got like another few hours to.
I know. We'll have to bring you back on and dive into clarity, and maybe it'll be in a better spot in a few months.
Well, what I realized about clarity, so it was sort of my idea about bringing the sort of introspection visualization of Ash. So you can introspect anything in Ash. And we already had some mixed tasks baked in very early on that you could create mermaid diagrams for your, entity relationship diagrams or class diagrams, or, there's some C4 stuff there now. It's not great because mermaid's C4. I chatted to the guy that made C4 at the Yale conference last year, and he was like, nah, they just stole Plant UML and made it garbage. But yeah, there's this whole structurizer tool that exists to do C4 properly, which is sort of zooming in.
Okay.
But yeah, there's introspection, and you can create diagrams from this stuff, but you can also just create documentation, like describing your Ash domain structure.
Yeah,
as a
I
tree.
thought it was very cool. You kind of gave me a walkthrough on Kill Switch, actually. I think that's what we ended up using it on.
That was a while ago now. It feels like a while ago.
It was. I feel like it was at least a couple months ago. I don't know. Maybe even
And
longer.
so, yeah, I sort of put Jonathan onto hey, can you build this out? And he did, and we've sort of released a very, very early rough version. And I've had this branch going for at least a month or two, where I fixed a lot of the glitches and added a few more features, but I haven't sort of twisted the lid off the jar because I've been distracted by just a few too many other things. But what I've realized this week, sort of getting back into it, is that what Jonathan has actually done, and it seemed overkill at the time, but what he's done is hoovered in everything in your Elixir app, every Elixir module, and created an in-memory graph data store. And so it's all done in digraph, which is the Erlang sort of graph library, which stores things away in ants and caches it. But what it is sort of like an agentic knowledge graph of your entire Elixir application. And when you have sort of graph relationships, you can attach knowledge to the nodes, and you can relate everything to each other, not only within your Ash domain, but within your entire application. So you could do dependency analysis because you've hoovered in all your dependencies. You can do xref graph things as well, and you can sort of ask any question about
and then you have the context of everything in your project, which is pretty
cool. So Jonathan sort of buried that a little bit, and maybe I just didn't click the big idea was actually because we're looking at multi-model data stores where they graph, their vector, time series, and we're looking at ArcadeDB, which is an interesting open source Java thing that mixes all of these models together, because I think one model of data store isn't going to cut it. And so you sort of need all of those ways of navigating knowledge and context.
Yeah.
And you want it to be super queryable and fast. And yeah, when I realized that Jonathan's just basically built an in-memory knowledge store, I'm like, ooh, what can we do with this? It takes a while to ingest it all, but not that long. It was very slow, and then he made it a lot faster. But
that's awesome. Very cool.
What I showed you was kind of the very minimum viable demoable product.
I saw the big picture though. I saw where it could go,
right,
and it was cool,
And so you've got a sense of what does my domain actually look like, and how does it hang together? And if you put in all of the annotations around documentation in your Ash thing, not only can they go out to your APIs,
and in fact, I think I even found some messy resources I wanted to clean up after we did that. Remember? So it was good. I was like, why do I have this here?
And so really, it's hard to Ash was hard to explain. Clarity's a little bit interesting because it's sort of well, depending on the audience, we had this lens idea of like, well, if you're thinking in architecture mode, you want to see how my Ash resources and domains sort of relate to each other. What does my business logic look like? Because that's really what you're bringing, and what you're spending the effort to build is the core platform. And, that is going to look really quite insightful. If you saw my keynote in Berlin, I talk about why. Like in Ash, you're basically modeling your core system, and then you derive things like the database structure and the migrations to get there, because it doesn't really matter where you store your data, actually. There's lots of possible options. And I think in 2026, we're starting to see the real need and necessity to have different ways of storing data, because relational just doesn't cut it for everything. And, I think we've been seeing that for quite a while. But, like the relational DB has had a good run, and Postgres is amazing. I'm not saying don't use Postgres.
We just need a little more pain to make it apparent, right? And then you're forced to make the changes. And we're seeing...
Look, and Ash deals with a lot of that stuff for you, but there are different ways to store data for different reasons. And I think multi-model in terms of storing data is going to be certainly the way forward. But also, I talked about in my Berlin keynote at Codebeam about like the disappearance of the UI. Like I watched Lars do some stuff. He pinged me on Discord going, hey, this Ash AI stuff is amazing. And he was basically doing Goatmire organization through Claude by talking to an MCP that was exposed to his Goatmire sort of platform. And he didn't have a UI, it was just Claude. And he was just interacting. And so I'm doing the same kinds of things.
I've been seeing the big push of worry more about creating good APIs now versus a full app, like give people access.
And what is an API? Like we had REST and we had GraphQL, but MCP was the stuff I've been talking about for quite a while now, since it came out, like a year and a half or something. It was November 2024. And I saw the promise of that, because it's like, API is native to how LLMs work. Great. Now we're seeing that MCPs don't work quite as well, because they have a lot of metadata that takes up context, and figuring out tool selection and making the LLM reliably pick a tool or a skill or whatever is actually a really hard problem, especially when you've got a lot of choice. It doesn't know how to make the decisions to pick those. And so I think that's still a problem. And so CLIs is actually a better deal, because you get progressive disclosure, and Claude and Co are really trained on running bash commands. And so you can do like man the CLI and get the man page and get the high level idea. And so they know how to do this stuff. And so CLIs in the last few weeks has been like absolutely better than MCPs, because CLIs are just a standardized Unix format, and the way that you get help and you understand, this is my top level menu with the one line description of each command. And then I can go, command help subcommand and get more detailed information about how that works. And so progressive disclosure is absolutely where it's at for LLMs and humans, right? That's how humans learn.
Yeah.
And everyone's realizing that shoving everything into your Claude MD is just a way to send that to the bot on the other side.
Well, we also see the limitation to that too. Like you can only throw so much in a markdown file,
Right. And skills were and usage rules, if you haven't used it.
Usage rules is amazing.
Certainly
it's probably
got an upgrade.
Like it's crazy, like the simplicity behind something like that, but like the amount of power you get from it.
So if you haven't checked out usage rules recently, when Claude announced skills, I was like, we should be able to take usage rules and turn it into skills, and did a very draft PR. Where I got stuck was we can't auto-generate the front matter description, which is how the LLMs see, because all it loads is the front matter for the skill, and then it figures out, do I need that skill? Then it loads the whole file. And so it's pretty critical that your description for the tool or the skill is perfect, because otherwise the LM can't choose to use it. It's like, use this when. And so that wasn't baked in. So I think it was Zack that rejigged it. It may
Awesome.
I
I'll have to
can't
check
remember
it
who did
out.
but
I feel like
you can now create skills and set your own descriptions for
Oh, nice. Okay.
groups of skills like Ash skills or LiveView or Phoenix or
Okay.
what have you, and it's way better. And you can sort
Awesome.
of turn it
I
from
probably
shoving
need
everything
to-
into Claude
yeah.
into more like progressive disclosure through skills.
I have been using skills heavily now in my daily workflow, and it's helpful. It's nice. But
yeah, I've been using Semox for like I love Ghosty, but I've been using Semox, and that's been really good.
Nice.
Around
Awesome.
just giving you like a Ghosty terminal with vertical tabs, which so you can read what the tabs are.
Yeah,
I have a lot of tabs. I've got a full side drawer of those, and then every time Claude stops, it does a little ding and puts a blue ring around, and yeah, just alerts you to what is needing, because I'm running like 20 plus sessions constantly, and
I feel like I have to step up my game. I'm like a single
so
thread.
try Semox.
user,
I really
you know?
like it. It's based on Ghosty, and so it just feels very familiar, and it's got a
All right, I'm
browser
pulling
built
it up
in,
right
and
now. Oh yeah, it's cool looking.
It's
All right.
super cool. Someone, Rob at Alembic, also showed us Super Set SH, I think it was another one. I can't vouch for that one, but Rob said it was pretty good.
All right, cool.
And so similar ideas is like, sort of agentic workspace terminals. And I was, abusing VS Code as basically like a Tmux because I never got it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know a lot of people using like Tmux sessions and things, and it seems to work pretty well. But
well, I just use VS Code with the way that you can get terminal windows.
I
and I had my code and my terminals and my Claudes and my codexes all in one space. And now I use Semox for the stuff that it doesn't necessarily have code attached to it.
Okay, cool.
But I use a combination of those.
I'm gonna have to do this. I feel like I need a little upgrade to my AI workflow, so it'll be good to.
Well, there you go. Semox is pretty good. It's still new, and so I found an issue the other day. If I dragged a session with a Claude running inside of it over to another workspace, it started like it wraps Claude and it wraps open. It wraps something else so that it can inject the hooks that it needs.
Okay.
And it's just a shell script that you can look at if you're worried about security. And so, it's pretty neat. And it works on Ghosty, cool. Which if you haven't used Ghosty as a terminal, iTerm2 was my favorite for a long time. And then I discovered Ghosty and Mitchell Hashimoto, I think that's his name.
Sounds right. I have not used it, but I have seen it. Oh, yeah.
Ghosty's amazing. And I think Zach was talking about, I think it was yesterday, that they got in the latest release scripting for Ghosty.
Oh, I did see his post on that. Yeah, that's cool. So that's really cool.
Apple script, you may not have ever written it, but
I have actually. I have a stupid
scripting your Mac.
I have a stupid script to mute my microphone at the hardware level, and I did that with an Apple script.
There you go. So Apple Script is probably the power tool that you've probably been sleeping on your Mac for.
Oh, I have absolutely. I have like a wish list of. I have a wish list of things I want to just take the time and like write out and automate, and I have.
Well, now you don't have to take the time. You just ask Claude to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's smart.
Right.
Yeah. See, like I use Claude daily, but then I don't think about using it to simplify my like working tasks,
So like I said before, and I think it's probably a good note to leave it on, is that you asked like, where does software engineering go? Well, we're not going to be doing any of the grind work anymore,
right?
But we get lifted up to be having more time to think about, well, what can we do? Where are the limits here? We don't know.
Yeah, and the only limit is your taste. All now,
the only limits are your taste and judgment, and your imagination.
Yeah.
And time.
Right.
And like, how many tokens can you get your hands on?
Yeah. How many tokens?
And utilize
what is your monthly spend?
I did accidentally buy a personal Max on top of the Alembic team plan premium seat, which is kind of like the team version of the Max plan. And the whole Alembic team is on that now.
Nice.
As of 2026, everyone got on there and earned their stripes. They had to push through the API key to sort of figure out, I'm using more tokens than it would cost to do the team plan premium seat. And so, you have to earn your stripes. And yeah, like I need to figure out how to utilize all the tokens I have at my disposal before the price goes up, because will the price go up?
I am. I feel like we're gonna
where they get you on the free credits and the cheap tokens, and then
we're gonna get trapped, and all of a sudden it'll be like, well, I guess it's worth $2,000 a month, or you know what I mean, per seat.
Right.
And then
if you're using it wisely, it probably is. But I know folks using like Cursor through their team plan,
Crispy
where it's like you pay for a seat.
What's Josh's handle on X?
Oh, it's just my name, Josh Price.
It's just Josh Price, right? Yeah.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I tagged him in some of my posts, so you should be able to find him.
Yeah. I stopped using X. No, Twitter. Still Twitter.
I had a hard time. I couldn't accept it. Like it doesn't flow right. But like all of a sudden, I feel like I guess it's been X long enough. But I don't know.
I guess I don't know. I like when Twitter came out, and I
like Twitter. It just sounds nicer. Tweets. It just makes like I don't like calling it posts. I'd rather call them tweets. But,
yeah, I'm still old school about that.
It's I get it.
2008 when it came out, it was just absolutely amazing, and it was like having conversations with everyone around the world globally, like they were next to you. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it still is like that.
I enjoy it.
There was a dip for a bit, and actually there's.
I feel like they cleaned up the for me. Like
I'm getting some really good stuff on there. I've been doing.
Me too. Mine has been all Elixir based, less politics, and it's been.
Yeah. No, I've been getting into like 3JS and what you can do with that.
Oh, nice.
And combining that with LiveView, because we're building I built sort of vibed up a satellite tracker, and it is pretty amazing. I may launch that soon, but we're about to start doing a interesting space project. So that's been something I've been waiting for since my my teenage years.
Well, that's
I was very into like 3D graphics, and I've always wanted for 30 years, my whole career, like how can we bring game and sci-fi interfaces into business applications? And I think with LLMs now, the calculus is such that we can. And 3JS is amazing.
Yeah,
it works really, really well with LiveView.
I've seen demos with it. I've never like played around with it though.
Well, I mean, that's why I asked whether we could do some screen sharing on this. But
you know what, we should. Well, I said I prefer not to, because then you have to like describe everything on the screen. But what
this is a podcast after all, so you were correct to say no.
Yeah. So, but I think what we should do is maybe schedule like a coding session, and then like I don't put those on podcast platforms, and we can screen share.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm definitely down for that. That would be a lot of fun.
Because I've been cooking some stuff that is pretty cool.
And
I feel like I'm just getting started.
Joshua Payne, he said the new relational database structure really got me excited, and now 3JS combined with LiveView in space. Let's go.
Right. I vibed up this satellite tracker in a couple of hours on a weekend, and I literally had a grin from ear to ear, and I've never had so much fun.
Yeah.
Because in my uni days, in my 3D graphics course, I built a ray tracer in C. And because I left it to the last minute, I was on my modem, telnetted to the university server, and then I realized, it's 10 o'clock at night, and I can't render the ray tracer output because I need a graphical terminal. And I'm like, what do I do? And I had this very slow modem, and so I had to downscale this ray tracing output to 10 by 10 or 20 by 20 so it would fit on a screen and render it in ASCII. So I wrote an ASCII renderer so I could keep trucking after hours.
Nice.
When I couldn't get the graphics terminals.
That's awesome.
And so, I've been waiting for this moment to come back to the
for real. That's awesome.
But yeah,
all right.
Claude is quite good at 3GS, and LiveView works with it a treat.
Yeah, I think let's get a vibe coding or just a coding session scheduled, and we can play around. I think that'd be fun.
Let's do it.
All right,
awesome.
cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Josh. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. And it's always great to chat. And I feel like we could go for hours.
I know. We can just keep going. And we'll just have to schedule another one and just continue on.
Let's do it. Looking forward to the next one. See you, mate.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And I'll see you guys on Friday with another episode. Testing.